Joining me now, New York Democratic Congressman Ritchie Torres, who in 2013, at just the age of 25, became New York's youngest elected official and the first openly LGBTQ person elected to the office there in the Bronx. Congressman, good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's start with Roe versus Wade being overturned. Tell me your reaction to this ruling and also concerns now that the court could potentially move on to reconsider gay marriage.
Well, I'm in a state of shock that a woman in 2022 will have less control over her own body and her own destiny than she would have had in 1973. The decision is an extreme shock to the system. It will open the door to the criminalization of abortion. It will open the door to blanket bans on abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, even in cases where a woman's health is at risk. Former Vice President Mike Pence has already called for a national ban on abortion. And Justice Clarence Thomas has said that the logic of the decision should be applied to overturn a whole host of cases that protect both the general right to privacy and LGBTQ rights. Justice Thomas is on a crusade against the legal doctrine known as substantive due process, which is the basis for the right to privacy, the right to sexual intimacy, the right to marriage equality. Justice Thomas has declared war on all of those rights and the legal doctrine upon which those rights depend.
What is it that he has said, though, specifically, that leads you to think that this is in his sights? When you think about what President Obama did and the legalization of gay marriage and how it really galvanized this country in so many different ways, what makes you so concerned by Thomas's language that gay marriage could be reconsidered?
I would just tell people to read the opinion. I mean, he said so himself. He wrote that the Supreme Court should overturn Griswold versus Connecticut, which protects the right to privacy and the right to use contraception. That the court should overturn Lawrence versus Texas, which protects the right to sexual intimacy between same-sex couples. And that the court should overturn Obergefell versus Hodges, which protects the right to marriage equality. So I'm not speculating. I'm simply quoting directly from his opinion. You know, of all the conservatives on the court, he's by far the most reactionary, but he's also the most honest. He's crystal clear that he's on a crusade against LGBTQ rights.
Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. This group of 33 Democratic senators, including Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Richard Blumenthal, and this letter that they sent to President Biden, urging him to use, quote, the full force of the federal government to protect access to abortion in the United States. Do you agree with these senators? And what do you want to see specifically from the president moving forward?
Well, in the wake of the Roe decision, abortion could become illegal in as many as half of states. And so the president should exhaust every means of expanding access to abortion in those states where it's likely to become illegal. I'm pleased to see that the Justice Department announced that states are prohibited from banning interstate travel for the purpose of procuring an abortion and are prohibited from banning the abortion pill. So those who are living in anti-abortion states will nonetheless have access to the abortion pill, which falls within the jurisdiction of the federal government. But the Biden administration should be hard at work thinking through every possible strategy for expanding access to reproductive care, which is critical to privacy and equality everywhere in America.
And since we're talking to you from the Bronx. If you don't mind, the ruling on guns. I know that it was towards the end of last week, but while I have you, your reaction, your concerns on that Supreme Court ruling.
I represent the Bronx, which is ground zero for gun violence in New York City, and I'm concerned that the Supreme Court's decision will flood the streets with guns. And experience tells us that wherever you have guns, you will have more gun violence. The United States has more gun violence than the rest of the industrialized world because we have more guns. We make up 4% of the world's population, but 40% of the world's guns. And I'm concerned that the Supreme Court's decision will only deepen the national crisis of gun violence, which has become the leading cause of death among children and teenagers.
Final question. Let's talk about just the confusion happening right now in the New York primaries, gubernatorial and certain state elections. They're being held today, as you know, while the congressional and other legislative races were kicked back to late August. What do you want voters to know? What can you clarify for us?
Well, when it comes to redistricting, New York is a national embarrassment, but there are two primaries. There's a late June primary for the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race, and the state assembly. And then there's a separate August primary for Congress and state senate. I'm concerned that the split primary will have the effect of creating confusion among voters and driving down turnout. But the Board of Elections here in New York had no choice but to postpone both the congressional and the state senate elections until August in order to comply with the New York State High Court's ruling, which struck down our congressional lines as an unconstitutional partisan gerrymander.
New York Democratic Congressman Ritchie Torres, appreciate your time today. Let's stay in touch.
Take care.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.